hurts. Hello everyone and welcome to another video and another episode of The Wintering. And this time we are going to cover winter swimming and how I'm approaching it, why I'm approaching it, and how you can too, with a few things to consider. But we are at Gladhouse Reservoir just outside of Edinburgh in Midlothian, for those that might not be aware, and I'm kitted up head to toe in Hoob stuff, as I'm very proud to say that I've recently joined the team. It's got a whole load of new stuff. Superhero wetsuits, the usual. They are best in class wetsuit wise, so if you're ever looking for one, you know where to go. But I'm going to be putting some of this stuff to the test today. It's 6 degrees air temperature, so I reckon the water is sitting around 7 or 8 at this time of year, which isn't dreadful. But the funny thing about living and training in Scotland is that when people talk about cold water, I normally go yeah, and it normally doesn't faze me that much because the sea is just so cold year round that I'm used to it. But Scotland in the winter, flip that on its head, this is genuinely really cold and really quite awful. But I'm going to talk you through the sort of nuances of why I'm doing this, why I like to train over the winter, get some open water swimming in, and if you are wanting to do the same, the small minority of you I imagine that is, a few things to consider along the way. But first thing to note is there's no way that you're going to get around this without additional kit, so wetsuit's the obvious one, and then we've got other elements here. So number one key thing to consider is cover your extremities. So these are booties, which will basically go over these non-swimming friendly shoes at the moment, and that will help keep your feet warm. You'll know quickly if you've ever swam in cold water, your feet go numb so fast. They make a massive difference. Skull cap, and that also again just helps keep your noggin warm, which you'll know the difference a beanie makes. That's why I'm in one now, because it's just keeping my homeostasis intact. But got those. And then gloves, again, cover your extremities, keep them warm. That is something to invest in for sure. If you can't invest in all three of these things, then I advise you find a swimming pool. So what I'm going to do is get this stuff on, and then I'm going to see you down on the shore to run you through it. But before we do that, I have a couple of things to request from you. First of all, if at any stage you do enjoy the video, do drop it a like. If you haven't already, just subscribe, please. Come on, just, this is cold. There's snow on hills over there. You'll see them on the drone, I'm sure, but there is snow on the hills over there, and I'm about to go swimming, so just subscribe. And number 3, please comment down below with any wintering content you want to see, any questions you have, any things you think I might have missed, or anything else. But just don't be a troll, otherwise I will delete your comment and send people to your house. So, see you on the shore. Okay, so first thing to consider is that there is no hack in this video that is going to tell you this is how you stay warm. That's the first thing we need to accept, is that you are going to be cold. That is all part of the appeal of this, that is all part of the benefits to be had, but if you've come here expecting Fergus has some secrets to share on how not to be cold, I'm afraid I do not possess those secrets. If anyone does, please do let me know. But first things first, I need to acknowledge how amazing these things are as changing rooms, as well as coming in and out. Staying warm is very key. So when you arrive, whether you're open water swimming in winter or not, best thing to do is try and stay as warm as you can. I always travel in my wetsuit. People call me weird for doing that, but I've seen so many people fumbling with wet wetsuits on shores like this one and absolutely shaking, freezing their hands off. But I always, if you can, travel in a wetsuit with a dry robe over the top. It can be a bit of a pain in the arse, a bit messy, but it's better than being freezing for ages, I guess. Swings and roundabouts. I'll leave that decision up to you, but that is something that I like to do. Then, number one consideration, well, not number one consideration, a consideration is when you start swimming with a wetsuit, you'll quickly realise as you build up distance, you will start to get rhino neck chafing around here, potentially around there if your wetsuit doesn't fit properly. But this is Hoob lube, and I don't think there's ever been a better pun done in the history of time. But if you want to get some, you can also join the club. The crown is mine. So what I'm going to do is just apply some of this to my neck to basically get that ready to go, because last thing you want is additional discomfort out with the already freezing temperature. So the best thing to do is just to apply some of that around these areas. And then that way, that's not going to be an issue. You only need to worry about the freezing cold and the paranoia that you have that there's a shark underneath you or something, but that might just be me. Then, main thing to do is basically try and order how you get set up so that you're minimising time spent exposed. I have my hands out and they're starting to get a bit cold, but they're in and out of the bag. So try and have your bag laid out as if things are sort of ready to go. Next up, I'm going to get into my booties just so I'm starting to get my feet warm, because as great as those shoes are, they're quite thin, but that means that they're easy to get on once you get back out, because cold feet, big socks, etc. There's a recipe for disaster, but we'll talk about getting out afterwards a little bit. But I say again, the main thing is you want to be minimising discomfort when you're in this situation, because it's already pretty uncomfortable. So I will get these on. And as you can see, I am now a wishbone, just in time for Christmas. So, top tip here is if you can try and basically seal them so that you don't get water in through the wetsuit, then that works quite well, because that actually keeps a bit more warmth in. But as I gracefully place on this second one here, just shoot for the same brief, get them underneath there, and then that is my feet toasty enough to go. Anyone that swam in open water, you will feel a massive difference in the cold getting into them. If you swam without, you'll get in and immediately start to think, oh, this is a terrible idea. But with those on, things are a lot easier. Next up, grab goggles and whatever else is required. I have a swim cap in here that is not as easily accessible as I hoped it would be. Do as I say, not as I do. So, swim cap on for some additional warmth. These are quite thick, these ones, so they do genuinely make a difference. And as you'll know, I think there was a myth that kicked about for years about X percentage of heat is lost through your head, and I believe it was somewhat disproven, but there is still a lot of good supporting science to indicate that you want to keep your head as warm as possible for overall homeostasis. So aside from my gloves, I'm good to go, but I'm not that nimble with them on, so I'm basically holding them to last. I have them here ready to go, so once the gloves are on, once the goggles are on, I'm going to get in and crack on. But just to summarise, the main things first of all, make sure you've covered your extremities, get as much neoprene on as you possibly can, and acknowledge that you're going to be cold. The worst part about all of this is your face. And we'll talk about exposure and things once I'm out of the water, but it's going to suck to start with. You'll get more used to it, it'll get more comfortable, and you'll build up distance over time, just like anything else. So at this point, people might get in, think, oh, that's far too cold, this was a terrible idea. Got the picture, stick a beanie on, stand there, float about a little bit. I've been there myself. This is sometimes quite challenging because it is bitterly cold, and the last thing you want to do is keep swimming. But that's what I'm here to do today, so I'm going to get myself in the water and talk you through it. The behind the scenes element of the wintering that you don't see as often is this. Okay, so just a few points on getting in. Whether this is winter or not, the cold in the UK is always going to be enough to take your breath away. So what people think is the best thing to do is just to get yourself in, immerse yourself, and then sort of deal with it as you go. But what that'll do is that'll set off your gasp reflex. You'll start to panic a little bit. And as you can see now, my breath's going a little bit because I'm coming up just over my hips. But good rule of thumb, if you're a gentleman like myself, wait until your balls have entirely disappeared before you start to dip down. But if this is just training rather than a race or anything, what I recommend is that you just settle your way in, and then you just slowly adjust to the cold in each part of your body. So I'm basically up to my belly button now, and sink down a little bit more. Really focus on your breathing, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Keep it controlled, keep it rhythmic. Keep it rhythmic. And then, excuse me, once you are good to go with goggles, you can then start to venture out a bit more. Just, I say again, float about, get used to it. Take your time, unless you're racing. You don't need to be racing anyone, you just need to get settled. And I can assure you, this is cold, and as much as I like to pretend I'm all stoic about this, right now I'm thinking, you know what, I'd like to be on the shore. So I'm getting there. There's a fine balance between settling, adjusting, and psyching yourself out. So without any further ado, I am gonna get cracking. Oh. Okay, so I'm just going to do 2 by 500 meters out and back because this is obnoxiously cold. But again, winter or otherwise, when open water swimming, you've got to be very safe, as you're obviously not within touching distance of a wall. Breath is gone, wow. What I would recommend, if you hadn't left it in the back of the truck like myself, is using a tow float, just so you're one, visible to others, but also if you do struggle with breath, if you do start to panic a little bit, you can just hold on to it, get your breath back, calm down, and then start swimming again. But given that I was visible and not too far away, just getting used to the cold again, I was okay with that one today. So again, do as I say, not what I do. But the best way to get used to open water swimming is out, back, breathe, what felt good, what didn't feel good, reassess, go again, rinse and repeat. Exposure is critical, whether that's with the cold or with volume, but I'm cold, so let's get back to all my bags and stuff, and I'll talk you through my sort of post winter swimming routine so that I'm get back to being warm, so I can stop shivering and stop worrying about how out of breath I am. Alright, so first things first, you want to get yourself warm again. It's just a case of getting everything off, but my hands are so cold I don't have much grip. The joys. Okay, one glove down. I say again, safety is very much the name of the game when it comes to open water swimming. You've got to make sure that you're confident, comfortable, have people close to you, know what you're aiming to achieve each day, etc. Especially in the winter, because cold can get you real fast. It can catch up on you, and cold showers, cold baths, etc. be very popular throughout lockdown, but they don't prepare you for moving, being exposed, being in the darkness of just looking down, not being able to see, etc, etc. So you've got to be careful. There's a psychological element to it as well. I have a horrific phobia of sea creatures and sharks, even in swimming pools, so I always need to be prepared for dealing with that. Hilarious, I know, but that is that. Ice baths, Wim Hof, etc, etc. has been massively popularised, as I'm sure you're all aware, and that's because swimming in open water, for one, has a whole host of health benefits. Some are pseudoscience-y, or the jury's still out of them. Some of them are proven, so the research generally shows that there are tangible benefits on short-term immunity in terms of your immune system, short-term mental health benefits in terms of the sort of fight or flight system being activated a little bit, which means that you come out with a real buzz. You're getting outdoors, you're outside in nature, so it's great for your mental health. Winter makes it tougher, it makes it brutal, but you're still outdoors, you're in a setting, you're taking on the cold. And then for me, the number one reason that I'm out here doing this, shivering away, is because this is a real fight you've got to have with your brain every time that you get into that cold and start thinking about what's going to happen next. You want to get out, you want to sack it off, and then every time you dip your head under that water, that intensifies, and every time you keep swimming, that's a little win for you. So you're constantly building resilience over the winter. if the winter's getting you down and you're still out there facing the elements, facing the cold, you are winning and you are developing yourself as an individual. I'm going to stay in my wetsuit actually, because I'm going to get very cold very fast if I don't. And in doing so, you're basically covering the exact element that I'm covering in this series, because you are building your resilience as an individual due to a series of small incremental wins over time, you versus you. Main thing, get yourself dry as soon as you can. Grab yourself suitable bags. Hoob makes some good ones, I've heard, so that you can get rid of your wet stuff. Little pouch here that I can chuck this stuff in. Goggles in there. I am gonna get these off, and then key thing is, I've made this mistake so many times, is make sure not to bring heavy duty socks or high top shoes or anything that's even remotely challenging to get on at the best of times, because when you're wet, when you're cold, when you're rushing, it's going to be a nightmare. So I've got with me a really cheap pair of TK Maxx ankle socks, because they're really flexible and easy to get on. I'm about to demonstrate putting a sock on. Foot fetish gang, have a field day. There we are, job done. And then exhibit B, I'm putting a whole sock and shoe on before the other sock. That's very old man in a changing room behaviour, but there we go. So I've been wrestling with, oh, put it in the mud, that was clever. I've been wrestling with big socks in the past and it's not fun, trust me. So once that is back on, we are pretty much good to get back to the truck. So I think I'll see you there. Alright, so that is that done. Please do let me know if you've got any questions on sort of beginner open water swimming. Appreciate this being winter focused, but there's a lot of things that people have in terms of questions about getting into it. It can be quite intimidating. There's a few subcultures that exist within open water swimming. Wild swimming, or swimming outdoors as it's better known, or just swimming if you know, want to really dilute it down. But there is a difference between standing in the sea in the cold with a beanie on and just sort of exposing yourself to the cold and actually swimming in it. So if you're intimidated going one direction, please do ask in the comments down below. Hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight on how you can approach winter swimming. I say again, my hands are gone, my face was properly cold there, like a lot of pressure around my head. I didn't enjoy it, but that's exactly why I'm here, because it's hardening me up, keeping me resilient, and not letting the winter blues, winter, oh it's so dark, get to me, because it's so easy to happen and it catches out the best of us. So keep chipping away at resilience, keep building it as and when you can. That is what the series is all about. So obviously if you haven't seen the previous episodes at this point, go and do so. There's a plane overhead, hopefully you can still hear me. But that is pretty much it for today's video. A few things to consider: if you've got decent neoprene kit, make sure you get it home and washed, especially if you're swimming in salt water. So get it out, get it rinsed. That's why having bags like this one are great, because you can keep all your wet stuff there, dump it in the bath, dump it in the shower, get it rinsed, hang it up, and you're good to go. You've got to take care of your kit and it will take care of you. So again, top things to consider when it's winter: keep your extremities warm, prepare for it psychologically, reap the rewards, reap the benefits, have a plan, have a tow float, be safe, have some people around you, make sure you build up your volume, build up your exposure, and just enjoy it. It's a great opportunity to build some resilience, and I'm lucky enough to have some fantastic settings like this one to do it in. So if you are lucky enough to have fantastic settings to do it in near you, then please do go and give it a crack and let me know how you get on. Other than that, just a final request to like, comment and subscribe, and do let me know what additional stuff you want to see as part of the wintering series. That's it from me. Do hope you enjoyed the video, and I will double salute. See you next time.